I want to start today by taking you right back to 1898.
Oh, wow. Okay, going way back.
Yeah, we're jumping right in.
That's
So
you.
picture this. We are in the basement of Columbia University, and we are looking at a box.
A puzzle box.
Right, exactly. But it's nothing fancy. It's just a wooden crate with slats, maybe a door that pulls open. But inside this box is a very unhappy, very hungry cat.
Yes, the famous Edward Thorndike experiment. And honestly, it is the absolute perfect place to start our deep dive today.
I think so too.
Because, it strips away all the messy complexity of human life. There's no New Year's resolutions, no guilt trips about skipping the gym. It's just pure, raw biology.
Right. The setup is incredibly simple. You have the cat inside and a bowl of food outside, but the
Yeah.
cat is trapped. To get out, it has to do something very specific like pull a loop of cord or press a lever or step on a little platform.
But here's the critical thing. The cat doesn't know that.
No, of course not.
And that's the whole point of the experiment. When you first put the cat in there, it is absolute chaos. It's pawing at the bars, meowing, sticking its nose through the slats, basically throwing itself against the wall.
Just total panic mode.
Exactly. It is essentially running a random number generator of behaviors.
Until, by just sheer dumb luck, it hits
Yeah.
the lever.
The door opens, the cat escapes, and it gets the food.
Now, if this were just a cute story about a lucky cat, it wouldn't really be all that interesting for us. But Thorndike put the cat back in again and again.
And this is where the science gets really fascinating, because we get to see the learning curve in its rawest form.
Yeah.
In those first few trials, the cat is still, flailing around. It takes a long time to get out. But very quickly, those random behaviors, the useless meowing and scratching, they just start to fade away.
Ray narrows it down.
Right. The cat begins to zero in on the actual solution. Eventually, after maybe 20 or 30 trials, you drop the cat in and boom, it steps on a lever instantly.
The behavior just became automatic. The whole error part of trial and error just completely disappeared.
Thorndike called this the law of effect,
Hmm.
which is a bit of a dry name for a truly massive concept.
Yeah, it sounds like a physics textbook.
It does, but the rule is simple. Behaviors followed by satisfying consequences get stamped in. Behaviors that produce nothing or produce pain get stamped out.
Hmm.
It sounds obvious now, but that experiment with the cat is literally the foundation for understanding almost everything we do.
And that brings us perfectly to the source material for today's deep dive. We are unpacking Chapter 3 of James Clear's massive bestseller, Atomic Habits.
It's a fantastic book.
It really is. And the core argument in this chapter is that, well, you and I aren't actually that different from Thorndike's cat.
We really aren't. I mean, we love to think we are these complex, deeply rational beings making decisions based on logic and, spreadsheets.
Right. Carefully weighing our options.
Exactly. But the machinery driving our daily lives, the reason you check your phone when you're bored or grab a cookie when you feel stressed, is the exact same neurological machinery that got that cat out of the box.
So our mission for this deep dive is to open up the hood. We want to look at the neurological loop that Thorndike identified and James Clear so brilliantly codified. Because if you don't understand the machine, you simply can't program it.
And let's be honest, most people are being programmed by the machine rather than the other way around. They're just reacting to cues and rewards all day long without ever realizing the system is even running.
Okay, so let's get into the actual structure of it. Clear breaks this down into 4 distinct steps. Cue, craving, response, and reward. And he argues this isn't just a sometimes thing. This is your brain's operating system.
It is the operating system. It's a continuous feedback loop scanning your environment every single moment you are alive. And it always, always starts with step 1, which is the cue.
The trigger.
Yes. It's a bit of information that predicts a reward. And that word predicts is crucial here. Evolutionarily speaking, our brains are just prediction machines.
Constantly guessing what happens next.
Right. Our ancestors were walking around the savannah, not looking for fun, but scanning for survival.
Water, food, shelter, the absolute essentials.
Exactly. So if you saw a berry bush in the distance, that visual input is a cue. It doesn't give you the reward right then and there. You haven't eaten the berry yet, but it predicts it. It tells your brain, hey, pay attention. Calories are nearby.
But we've totally hacked this in the modern world, haven't we? I mean, I'm certainly not scanning for berries on my way to work.
No, we are scanning for secondary rewards now. Status, approval, relief, distraction, money. But the underlying biological mechanism is totally identical. When your phone buzzes in your pocket, that is a cue.
But it's just a neutral signal, right? I mean, a buzz is literally just a vibration against your leg.
Physically, yes. But neurologically, it is a promise. Your brain interprets that little buzz as, oh, someone wants me. There's social validation waiting on that screen. Or maybe just, here's a distraction from this incredibly boring meeting I'm sitting in.
Which leads us immediately to step 2. The buzz happens, and then you feel that familiar itch. The craving.
The craving. This is the motivational force behind every habit. And I really want to pause here because this is where so many people get the psychology dead wrong.
Oh, really? How so?
We tend to assume the craving is about the object itself, like, I want the donut or I want the cigarette.
Well, yeah. If I'm staring at a glazed donut, it really feels like I crave the donut.
Sure, it feels that way. But Clear makes a really critical distinction in this chapter. You do not crave the habit itself. You crave the change in state that the habit delivers.
Unpack that a little bit for us, because honestly, the donut looks pretty good on its own.
Think about it closely. Do you crave the physical donut, strictly speaking, or do you actually crave the sugar rush and that warm feeling of satisfaction it gives you?
Ah, I see.
Same with smoking. Do you crave the cigarette, which literally involves inhaling harsh, toxic smoke?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you crave the relief from stress and the calming nicotine hit?
That makes a lot of sense. The object is just the vehicle to get you there.
Exactly. You don't crave the physical act of brushing your teeth either. The scrubbing sensation isn't the point. You crave the feeling of a clean mouth. You crave the result.
So the craving is actually a desire to change your internal narrative. You're cold, so you crave warmth. You're stressed, you crave relief.
It's a gap. It is the specific gap between where you are right now and where you want to be. The cue tells you there's an opportunity to change your state, and the craving is the raw motivation to close that gap.
It's super interesting because this explains why different people react so differently to the exact same cue. Like if a slot machine jingles in a casino, a gambling addict feels this massive, overwhelming craving.
Yes.
But if I hear it, I just hear annoying noise.
Because your brain hasn't linked that specific cue to a state change. For the addict, their brain has learned through repetition that that sound means a massive dopamine rush is coming. For you, the cue is totally meaningless. Cues are meaningless until they are interpreted by the observer.
Okay, so we have the trigger, which is the cue, and we have the motivation, the craving. Now we actually have to do the thing. Step 3 is the response.
This is the actual habit, the thought or the physical action. And this is where the rubber really meets the road. Clear points out that a response only happens if 2 specific things are true. You have to want to do it, and you have to be able to do it.
That seems pretty obvious, but I assume there's some nuance there regarding the ability part.
Oh, absolutely. Think about friction. We are fundamentally biological creatures designed by evolution to conserve energy. It's often called the law of least effort.
Right.
If a habit requires more energy than you're willing to spend in that specific moment, the loop just breaks. It falls apart.
So even if the cue is there, like, I see my gym gear by the door and the craving is there because I really want to be fit, if the response requires me driving 30 minutes in horrible traffic,
You probably won't do it. Your brain essentially runs a lightning-fast cost-benefit analysis. Is the reward worth the effort? If the answer is no, the response simply doesn't happen.
that makes total sense. Like, if you want to dunk a basketball, but you can literally only jump 6 inches off the ground, no amount of craving is going to make that habit stick.
Exactly. Capability matters. Friction matters. Which brings us to the 4th and final step, the payoff, the reward.
The end game.
The reward serves 2 very specific evolutionary functions. First, it satisfies the craving. You eat the food, the hunger is gone. You check the text message, the curiosity is satisfied, the immediate problem is solved.
It provides relief. It finally closes the loop.
Yes, it does. But the second function is arguably way more important for long-term habit formation. Rewards teach us.
And this goes right back to Thorndike's cat.
Precisely. What gets rewarded gets repeated. Your brain is basically a highly tuned reward detector. As you go about your life, your sensory nervous system is constantly monitoring everything. Did that feel good? Did that solve the pain? Did that get me the social approval I wanted?
And if the answer is yes,
Your brain drops the little mental bookmark. It tags that sensory sequence. It says, hey, next time this cue happens, make sure we do this exact thing again.
and if the answer is no, like if I eat the berry and it's horribly bitter,
Delete this program. Do not repeat. It's a perfect feedback loop. Cue, craving, response, reward. And here's the kicker. If you remove any single one of these 4 stages, the habit dies.
really, any of them.
Yes. If you eliminate the cue, the habit never even starts. If you reduce the craving, you won't have the motivation to act. If you make the response too difficult, you literally can't do it. And if the reward isn't satisfying, you'll never learn to repeat it in the future.
It's incredibly mechanical when you break it down like that. It almost strips the morality completely out of it. We
Hmm.
beat ourselves up all the time for having bad habits, thinking we're just weak-willed or lazy.
All the time.
But really, we just have a very efficient brain that found a loop that worked to solve a problem, even if it's a bad loop.
That is such a crucial insight for anyone listening. Your brain does not care if the habit destroys your health 10 years from now. It only cares if it solves your immediate stress right now. If
Wow.
eating a dozen donuts solves your anxiety in the short term, your brain locks in that loop. It's just doing its job. It's just doing it in a way that doesn't serve your long-term goals at all.
So Clear actually divides these 4 steps into 2 broader phases in the book, the
Okay.
problem phase and the solution phase. I find this distinction really helpful for visualizing how it all happens.
I agree, it's a great framework. The problem phase includes the cue and the craving. That's you realizing, oh, something is wrong here. I'm bored, I'm sad, I'm anxious. You are identifying a problem in your current state.
And the solution phase is the response and reward. Basically, here is the action I take to fix the problem.
Right. And the scary part, or maybe the amazing part, depending on how you look at it, is the sheer speed of this. This all happens in a fraction of a second. Clear uses the dark room analogy in the chapter, and it's just perfect because it's so mundane.
Walk us through that one.
Imagine you walk into a completely dark room. Instantly, your brain processes the cue, which is darkness. The craving follows immediately. I want to see. That is the problem.
Right.
The response is totally automatic. You reach out and flip the light switch, and the reward is that the room is lit. You can see. Problem solved.
And you don't stand in the doorway and debate it with yourself. You don't stroke your chin and think, I observe a distinct lack of photons in this space. I strongly desire illumination. Let me formulate a plan.
Exactly. You don't think at all. It is fully automated. You have run that specific loop thousands and thousands of times in your life. The solution, flipping the switch, is so tightly coupled to the problem of the darkness that you don't even realize you're actively solving a problem.
And that's totally fine for light switches. That's helpful. But it's incredibly dangerous when the problem is, say, I feel crushing social anxiety, and the automated solution is drink 3 quick beers.
Precisely. Once that habit loop is fully formed, you stop thinking about the solution entirely. You just act. You are running on a script that was written by your past self. The habit loop is continually scanning, predicting, and acting without your conscious input.
Okay, so we have the machine. We know exactly how it works. We know it runs on autopilot. Now comes the really practical part, the billion-dollar question for everyone listening. How do we actually rewrite the script?
This is where James Clear gives us his 4 laws of behavior change. And the brilliant part is that they map perfectly to the 4 steps we just unpacked. If the loop is the anatomy of a habit, the 4 laws are your practical user manual.
Let's run through them then. Say we want to build a good habit from scratch. Step 1 is the cue. What is the first law?
The first law is make it obvious.
Which really counters the whole idea that building habits is just about drumming up enough motivation.
Motivation is highly overrated. Environment is what actually matters. Look, if you want to practice guitar, but your guitar is tucked away in its case, shoved in the back of the guest room closet, you have completely hidden the cue.
You'll never play it.
You won't. You need to buy a stand and put that guitar right in the middle of your living room.
You basically need to be tripping over the cue.
Yes. You are deliberately designing your environment to scream the cue at you. You're hacking your own visual cortex. Don't hide the healthy fruit out of sight in the fridge drawer. Put it in a giant bowl right on the kitchen counter. Make it obvious.
Okay, so step 2 is the craving. What's the second law?
The second law is make it attractive.
And this is all about dopamine, right?
It is. We are naturally drawn to things that feel good or look high status to others. A really great hack Clear talks about here is temptation bundling. You basically pair an action you need to do with an action you really want to do.
Like the example of the engineering student who hooked up his stationary bike to Netflix.
That is the perfect example. He wrote a computer program so he could only watch his favorite Netflix shows if he was physically pedaling the bike at a certain speed.
That's genius.
It is. He used the want watching Netflix to drive the need getting exercise. He made a difficult habit incredibly attractive by tightly linking it to a high-value reward.
Moving into the solution phase now. Step 3 is the response, the third law.
The third law is make it easy.
Reduce that friction.
Exactly what we discussed earlier with the law of least effort. We will always naturally gravitate toward the option that requires the least amount of work. So, if you want to start a new habit, You need to make it ridiculously easy to do.
This is where Clear introduces the 2-minute rule, right? Basically downscaling your desired habit until it can be done in 2 minutes or less.
Yes. Don't set out with the goal to run a marathon. That's too much friction. Set out with the goal to tie your running shoes. Make the initial action so incredibly small and so easy that you literally can't say no to it. You're optimizing for the start line, not the finish line.
Just get in the reps of starting.
Exactly.
And finally, step 4, the reward. The fourth law.
The fourth law is make it satisfying.
Now, this one seems tricky for things like saving money for retirement or working out, where the real reward is delayed by months or even years.
That is the classic time inconsistency problem. Our human brains value the present moment way more than the distant future. So to make those habits stick, you have to artificially engineer an immediate reward.
Like treating yourself to a nice bubble bath after a grueling run.
Sure. Or even something as simple as using a habit tracker. Just physically drawing a big red X on a calendar provides this tiny, immediate hit of satisfaction. It closes the loop right then and there. It tells the brain, hey, this was totally worth it. Let's do it again tomorrow.
Now, here is where this framework gets exceptionally powerful. We've talked all about building good habits, but what about breaking bad ones? Clear says we simply have to invert these exact same laws.
It's the exact same logic, just played in reverse. You want to completely break the loop.
So let's go through the inversion. For the cue, instead of making it obvious,
Make it invisible. If you say, I eat way too many cookies, we'll stop buying cookies. If they aren't sitting on the counter, the visual cue never fires. If you check your phone too much while working, put it in a drawer in another room. Remove the cue entirely from your environment.
out of sight, out of mind. For the craving, instead of making it attractive,
Make it unattractive. This requires a bit of a mindset shift. You have to actively reframe the narrative in your head. Instead of thinking, I'm depriving myself of a cigarette right now, you tell yourself, I am avoiding becoming a slave to a nicotine addiction. You intentionally highlight the massive benefits of avoiding the bad habit.
for the response, instead of making it easy.
Make it difficult.
Yet.
Radically increase the friction. This is actually my favorite one to use. If you constantly waste time scrolling on Instagram, delete the app from your phone after every single use.
Oh man, that sounds incredibly annoying.
That is exactly the point. If you have to go to the App Store, download it, install it, remember your password, and log in every single time you want to scroll, you probably won't do it.
Yeah.
You are increasing the physical cost of the response so much that it easily outweighs the craving.
It's just not worth the hassle anymore. And finally, for the reward, instead of making it satisfying,
Make it unsatisfying. Add an immediate, painful cost. We see this with accountability partners all the time. If you miss your morning workout, you owe your best friend $50.
ouch.
Right. Suddenly, staying in bed and skipping the gym isn't a relief anymore. It is a direct financial penalty. You are making the immediate outcome painful, which actively teaches the brain to avoid that specific loop in the future.
It is so incredibly comprehensive when you lay it all out like that. And what I love is that it moves the entire conversation away from willpower.
That is the ultimate takeaway here. We constantly fall into the trap of thinking that if we fail to stick to a diet or a habit, it's a moral failing. We say, oh, I'm just not disciplined enough. But Clear is arguing that it is almost always a design failing. You just haven't designed a daily system that follows the 4 laws.
You're trying to use brute force willpower to fight against a biological machine that is hardwired to follow cues and rewards.
And in a prolonged fight between your willpower and your evolutionary biology, biology is going to win every single time. The goal is to stop fighting your brain and start working with it.
So let's bring this all back to you, the listener. We've decoded the loop today. Cue, craving, response, reward. We know the problem and solution phases, and we have the 4 laws to drive the whole machine.
We do. And please remember, this isn't just about massive life overhauls. This exact same loop is happening when you pour your morning coffee, when you tie your shoes, when you get frustrated in stop-and-go traffic. Literally every behavior you have is simply an attempt to solve a problem.
Exactly. And I think once you really internalize that, you can start to look at your own bad habits with a little more compassion. You aren't fundamentally broken. You just have a habit loop that is successfully solving a problem in a way that just doesn't serve your ultimate goals anymore. Your brain found a solution. Maybe it's stress eating, maybe it's smoking, and it just locked it in.
But the beauty is, because it was learned, it can absolutely be unlearned. Or rather, It can be replaced with a much better solution.
Yeah.
You can keep the cue, like the stress, and you can keep the desired reward, the relief, but you can change the response to something genuinely healthy.
Huh?
But you can only do that if you actually see the parts of the machine moving.
Which brings me to a final provocative thought for everyone listening to mull over today. We've talked a lot about doing things, making things obvious, making things attractive, easy, satisfying. But there is a crucial step before all of that action. Exactly. Since so much of this habit loop happens completely non-consciously in that split second, just like walking into the dark room, you can't actually change the system until you realize the machine is even running.
It's so true. You cannot interrupt a cue that you don't even notice. Cleese actually mentions this fascinating Japanese railway safety system called pointing and calling. Have you heard of this?
I have, yeah. It's where the train conductors literally point at the track signals and physically call out their status, right?
Yes. They will aggressively point at the light and yell, "Signal is green." They point at the speedometer and yell, "Speed is 80." To an outsider, it looks completely silly.
Very theatrical.
But statistically, it reduces workplace errors by something like 85%.
Just because it takes a totally non-conscious habit and forces it directly into the conscious mind.
Exactly. You're physically and verbally engaging with the cue. You are forcefully raising your awareness level from pure autopilot back to manual control.
So before you try to use the four laws to completely overhaul your entire life tomorrow, maybe just start right there. Just notice. Watch yourself operating.
I am about to check my phone right now because I'm feeling mildly bored.
Or I just saw that cookie on the counter and I immediately felt the craving. Don't even judge it at first. Just watch the code running in your own head.
Because once you can clearly see the code, you can finally rewrite it.
Extremely well said. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the architecture of your own daily lives. We hope you'll never look at a light switch or a puzzle box quite the same way ever again.
Thanks for listening, everyone.